Hello, React Native developers. What is going on? Welcome to Can It Be Done in React Native. This week, Flutter is inspiring us to set the bar higher. Hello, guys. I hope you are well. William here, recording from beautiful Zurich, Switzerland. As you know already, this series, Can It Be Done in React Native, came from the fact that while using my phone, I was always thinking in terms of, how would we do this in React Native? And that feeling, that can it be done in React Native feeling, has never been as strong as when my friend pulled out his Android device and showed me this demo from Flutter. So Flutter has released a small demo app on the Play Store where they showcase essentially some of the UI components you can use with Flutter and some of the user experiences you can build using Flutter. And one has really caught my attention, and it's this one, so the animation. And as you can see here, you have like 4 sections. You can swipe vertically and then nicely translate to this view. You can swipe more, and you have like you see these little lines, and then you can swipe horizontally. The index of which tab is active is updated, and then you can swipe down at any point in the app. You can swipe down and you get this beautiful animation again. So when I first saw this, I got really excited because obviously it's a very cool demo. I got very excited, but also I felt overwhelmed because it looks like there's really a lot going on here. And I'm also very thankful for Flutter to set the bar so high, essentially. So they released this demo app and essentially saying like, this is the baseline quality of user experience you can provide to your user. And I think that's very cool. And so I'm very thankful for Flutter to set the bar so high. And I'm also thankful for React Native because it enables us to build such example using web development skills. I'm really thankful that I'm always bet on the web kind of guy. I think learning web technology is a very future-proof investment. That's my belief. And so I'm really glad that if you know how to build a modern JavaScript code base, if you know modern CSS, you can build such an example using React Native. And I mean, on a complete side note, I'm doing a lot of web development at the moment. And I can tell you that working on these little React Native puzzles has absolutely made me a better web developer, like no questions, 100%. So I'm really thankful for that. I'm also very thankful for technologies like Expo that enables us to build such example with a level of agility that is just unprecedented. You can run this example right now. The link is in the video description, with nothing installed on your machine, essentially through Snack, or you can also build such example using a web browser with Snack, or with Expo, like you don't even need Xcode or Android Studio running on your laptop. So this level of agility, and that we can do like web development, like updates to our project and so on, I find it to be really incredible. And I'm also thankful for the whole open source ecosystem in general, and especially modules like React Native gesture handlers and React Native reanimated that enables us to build such example in a performant manner. So how would we do this in React Native? I mean, honestly, it looks like there is a lot to unpack here, and I think we need to to try to divide this problem into I would say 3 categories. So the first one is the gesture system. So we clearly have like some sort of a specific gesture system that we need to identify. And the second thing is going to be the layout, so the starting layout of all our elements. And I think it's very important to really spend some time thinking about how we want our original layout to be, because it's going to enable us to build, once we have to animate, it's going to enable us for the animations to not be too complex. So if we are kind of clever about how we want every element to be positioned at the start, hopefully the last step won't be too difficult. So the last step is to actually build the animations. And yeah, again, I mean, the more you play with this demo, like, the more you think like that there is a lot going on, but hopefully we can really like chew this problem, like on this problem, like one bite at a time, and get it done. So regarding the gesture system, so as you can see, we can scroll into every direction, but we can never scroll. We can only scroll in one direction at a time. So it looks like two nested scroll views essentially. So if you've watched previous episodes, you know that I love this technique of using empty scroll views, absolutely filled with an absolute fill on the viewport essentially. And so this time it looks like we have two scroll views for the price of one, right? The horizontal one and the vertical one. And the reason we would need here to use an absolute fill and empty content on these scroll views is because if we put the content within the scroll view while we scroll and then we animate on the objects, it's going to look weird, because you're going to have the object moving because of the animation and the object moving because of the scroll. So I think it's much better to just have an absolute fill scroll view on the viewport and just use these animation values to drive all the other animations. And so below these scroll views, we will have the starting layout. And I draw on Sketch how I think it should look like. So here we have I took some screenshots from the app. And in the red, we have the viewport. And so we're going to have one container which will contain all the section headers. And then we're going to have another container here below, which will contain all the pages. So when we scroll in Y, we gently scroll to every position. And then when we scroll up, we essentially scroll on top of the container, and hopefully we'll animate every object properly. And so that's the third step, which is actual animations. So hopefully we can find a way to do this properly. You do have, if we look at one section, you have the picture with a gradient, the label, and this line here. They all have different animation targets. And also you see that the text is always above the cards. And here, for this position, we have like the lines, which are separated from, so you see on the left and right, you have the lines, but then they become, so at this position, you see the lines on the left and right side. And then if I go to this position, they're all together. The opacity of the line depends on which tab is active. So there is overall a lot going on, but hopefully we can get it done. And regarding the scroll view, there is one thing which I forgot to mention. So if we scroll horizontally here, it snaps. So you have a snap point, which is the width of the viewport. And then if I scroll vertically, you also have a snap point. I mean, you have a snap point here, and you have a snap point at this position. And so these, so if we use a scroll view for the vertical scrolling and horizontal scrolling, for the vertical scrolling, we cannot implement these snap points using a scroll view because they are not at regular interval from each other. So here it's easy. We say snap to interval with, but vertically we have custom snap points, and so actually we cannot really use a scroll view to build such example. And I think what we can do is just implement our own scrolling component using React Native gesture handler and React Native animated. And this would be using techniques which we've seen already from previous episodes. So where we would have a pan gesture handler, listen to the animation values, remember, so set an offset value to remember where we are in the scroll when we start again the gesture, and then snap to the correct position. It's something also we know how to do. And then maybe we would have some other things we will need to take care of, like dealing with the bounds of the scrolling, so probably using like a div clamp, for instance. So yeah, that would be a lot of work, but that's how we would do it. And I went to see the source code from the Flutter project because first I wanted to get the pictures and the colors for the React Native example to look the same. And then where can I find the example? This one, demo animation. And I think when I looked at the source code of the app, even though I'm no expert in, this is the first time I was looking at Dart code, so I only have a sense of what's going on, but it gave me insurance that, I had this original idea of how to implement such example, and looking at the Dart source code gave me some level of confidence that it can be done in React Native, because essentially the way it looks like is that they're basically doing imperatively what we want to essentially declare in React Native. And so here everything is done imperatively. In our case, because we have the JavaScript bridge, we need to declare everything, but essentially it really looks very, very close to what we want to do. So as soon as I started to look at the source code of the demo, I got some confidence that it can be done in React Native. But what do you guys think? Can it be done in React Native? Let's have a look. Guys, before we get started, I would like to let you know about React Native Elements. React Native Elements is a premium starter kit for React Native. It works on iOS and Android. It covers 80% of what you need when starting a new React Native project. So from the static analysis with ESLint rules and flow types to basic React navigation and lots of beautiful UI components which are organized into different categories: travel, photography, music, social, food. So everything you need when really getting started with a new React Native project. This is what I use for every of my projects. I keep it up to date with the latest versions of Expo and React, as well as the latest APIs and best practices. So if you have a new React Native project coming up, I really recommend you check it out at react-native.shop/elements. You can try it out on iOS through TestFlight or Android through the Expo client or by downloading the APK. So that's React Native Elements, and I hope you check it out. So now let's get started. I have created a boilerplate project here, which you can download from the video description in case you want to follow along. And so this is the data basically I copied and pasted from the Flutter project, so the images, colors, and section titles. As always, when starting the app, I load the images. This project has been created using Create React Native App, by the way, as always. And so I'm loading the images, and then I have a section components, which simply has the headers component, pages component. So again, if I go back to, let me quickly open this sketch here. So, you know, it basically contains this layout, right? So we have the headers component, pages components below. So if I go in pages, I'm just for each section displaying the page, which looks like this. And then for headers, for each section, I'm displaying the headers, which we can see on the phone. Let me just open it with Expo, which we see here. So that's our boilerplate project. And I think the first thing we're gonna need to do is to add these scroll views. So we have two scroll views, one for the horizontal scrolling, one for the vertical scrolling, nesting on top of each other, and with an empty content and set in an absolute fill position to the viewport. So let's do that. So we have our sections element, we have our container, we have flex1. So this is going to be like our viewport container. This is the content we're going to animate, and we're going to add two scroll views, which are going to be nested on top of each other. And actually, since we know we're going to use the animating module, I can directly write animated.scrollView, animated.scrollView, and I can import animated from reanimated. And so we know we need to put the absolute position fill. And regarding the boilerplate for the scroll view, I always forget. So I think we are gonna look at a previous example. So let's look, for instance, at the snack from the from the Instagram stories episode, and we can just copy and paste this boilerplate. So let's see. So here we're going to create on scroll function deceleration rate. I think you can write fast. Snap to interval, no. Scroll event throttle 16, that's good. Show horizontal indicator. So I guess this one, okay, will be the horizontal one, so that's good. Okay, no need for reference. So here we'll have on scroll X, and the width is gonna be width of the screen times the number of sections. So sections.length, we import here, so that's good. And then same for the vertical scroll view. We can set the height to be the height of the screen plus the height of the screen minus the minimum, so the small header height. So because again, if I go back to the layout here, we scroll to, so this height here is the height of the viewport plus the remaining height, which is the height minus this, let me do it like this, minus v subset, which is small header height. And we'll have on scroll scroll y. It's not horizontal, it's vertical, which is the default, I think. And show vertical scroll indicator false. Okay, so now we need to bind these animated values. So we are going to create them in the constructor. Scroll x on scroll y. And yeah, so let me create the constructor. And we're gonna need to create two animated values, one for x, one for y. And so on scroll x equals so let's create a utility function to bind the animation value, which we're going to call on scroll. So it can be either x or y. So let me again, I always need to copy and paste the boilerplate for the scroll view. I never know it by heart. And so we can use events from reanimated. So here we have xy, but looks good. I just need to import value and event from animated. Oh. Okay. So on scroll x, which is this x, okay, so let's have a look. I mean, obviously here we're not gonna see anything because so we have the scroll values moving, but we don't do anything with it. So what we can do maybe quickly is just log these values to see if something is happening. And I can use the animated code component to do that. Let's have a look. Call x, y, just see. So we are trying to log the value quickly to see if something is happening. X, y. So let's have a look. Oh, I forgot to import call. Okay, so here we have 0. We scroll down. Ah, I forgot, it's bouncing. If you see the values, you can tell it's bouncing. So bounces equals false. The iOS bounce, huh? So bounce is false. Okay, so let's So here I'm going to the left, perfect, going back to 0, 0, going down, looks, I think it looks good. So yeah, pretty good. I think now, so we have our X and Y, we can use it to drive the animations. And I think the first thing we're gonna do, let's start with a simple thing, which is to animate these pages, right? Here it's like pretty, that's the easy part, to animate the horizontal scrolling. The hard part is to animate the headers, the text, and these little cursors. So is there something wrong here? I don't know. So we're gonna give the X and Y value to the pages component, and so we can get it here. Up. We import animated from reanimated again. And okay, so this one becomes an animated view. And we can add some translation to it. So transform equals translate X translate Y, and translate X equals X multiplied by -1. So when we go up, we need to translate negatively, right, from the original position of the right again. So if I go back here, this is the base position of the page. So to go up like this needs to be minus value. Same when we go from left to right. So we need to multiply everything by -1. So we use multiply from reanimated to do it on animated values. So translate X equals multiply Y times -1, and we can import multiply from animated. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, so translates nicely, and then translates horizontally as well. So looks pretty good. Now what we need to do is, you see, to have like the snap point at the width. So we can just do, or I should, so on this scroll view, snap to interval equals width. Okay, and now it snaps nicely to any position. Okay, so that's that's the easy part. Now let's go into animating these headers here. So it's a headers component, And here I have the list of headers. And I think that the first thing I need to do is to put them on top of each other, so to have them positioning, to have an absolute fill positioning. And I think what I'm gonna do is, so return the component. This, yes. And so we can create a get style function which will return the style. And so get style equals eight. So let's say the full header 8, which is 8 of the screen divided by the number of sections. And so position absolute top 0, left 0. Let's have a look. Syntax error. Oh yeah, so we will need to get it here. Okay, so now they are all on top of each other. So let's do the first transformation. So you see here we have the header components, it's wrapped into a view because that's the view we're going to animate. I'm going to use animated dot view. So I import animated from React Native reanimated. And I think the first transformation we're gonna do let's start with the Y translation. So here we can pass the index of the section. So we get it here as index. So we can add a transform, which is an array with the key translate Y. So let's define translate Y. So translate Y is going to depend on the Y scrolling value, which we need to pass to the section component. So sections needs to receive also X and Y here. And I can just declare it quickly here. And we get value from animated, and we're going to need interpolate as well and extrapolate. So from animated. So translate Y, we're going to interpolate in Y. So when we are at, so input range, sorry. So when we're at 0, we go from 0 to 8 minus small header 8. So output range is at 0, it's full header 8 times the index, right? So if we go back here, if it's the first one, it's at 0. If it's at the second one, it's full header 8 times 1. If it's the third one, full header 8 times 2, and so on. And then if we are actually not even before the small header 8, but at the medium header 8, we arrive at the top corner, and then we need to add extra, so top left corner, and then extrapolate the clamp. So let's have a look. Oh, I forgot. So I need X, Y. Okay. That looks, does it look good? Yeah, I guess that's good. Now we need to translate in X, right? So the section we are at currently needs to stay at this X position, but all the other ones needs to go in their respective direction. So either to the left or to the right. So we need to create a translate X variable, which we're going to interpolate as well from Y. So input range, I would say the same. So we go from with, so at 0, we are at 0. Everything, they're all at the same in the viewport, and then when we have like the content scrolled over, we translate by index times width. Let's try. So I need to add it here. Let's have a look. That looks good actually. To see. And then here we also need to switch the value when we scroll, because here it looks like we're staying always at the same section. So maybe what we can do, okay, so we need to add translate x2, which is actual x translation, and we need again to multiply by -1, like for the pages. And so we have translate x equals add translate x1 plus translate x2. So I need to import multiply add and not define. Oh, sorry. And here we don't go to where we're on top. It's not 0 actually, but it's x the value, right? 0 if it's the first column, but let's have a look. So okay, goes nicely, and then scrolls, and then you can go up. Perfect. So now there is a translation missing, which is that the size here of the container doesn't change. It's always the same size. And so we can animate also on the height. So we can create height, which depend again on the y value. So input range, goes from 0 to height minus medium header height, and to height minus small header height. So if you remember from the demo earlier with the Android device, there is like three positions, right, for the header. So which are these three positions? So these two snap points, and then this final position, the maximum you can scroll the section to. So output range equals, at 0 we use full header 8, at medium size we use medium header 8, and small header 8. Extrapolate we also need. So let's have a look, but I'm already, so there's an error here. We need to use height here. So height minus medium small header. So height is defined. Oh, okay. So I need to rename this header. I don't know. Header height. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, so you see now it gets bigger up, so to this position here, and then it gets smaller. Okay, I can just swipe around. Looks pretty good already. Now we need to do the text, and so the text goes on top of the cards. So I cannot put the text in the header, because then you will have the card going over the text, and so in the Android demo that's not how it works. So let's copy this guy here, and so instead of header we have a component called label. So, and if we go inside, so we have the section title, and then so what we do is, in order to be able to center the text, because it goes from the left, and then it's perfectly centered, and we want to use this we want to do this using we want to do this in the UI thread. We can use a monospace font family. We know therefore the size exactly of the text, and that's going to enable us to compute the animation values. I guess there is some other techniques you could use to do this. I just thought this one would be quite quick to do. And so let me see. Okay, so the text doesn't show up here. And I think, so here we have absolute position field, that's okay. I think we need to add the width here. Either the width or right equals 0. Okay, so now we see the titles. So let's animate them. I think we can pass X, Y again. So we can get it here to the label component. So label component now receives X animated value, Y we import from array animated. Okay, we're gonna need again the same boilerplate functions. Can add it here. And so here we're gonna use animated view, and animated text. So the first thing we need to do is to add some opacity to the view. So only the active view has opacity. So we can create opacity variable, which we are gonna, so we have XY here. So we're gonna interpolate on X. So input range. So we go from 0 to width times number of sections. Output range. So actually that's not correct. So if we are at 0, the 0 has the full opacity, and then the one on the right has, let's say, half opacity. But then if we're at 1, it's the one before and the one after. So we need to check if index equals 0, our range goes from 0 to 0, okay, 0, 0, and then width, and if not, it's so width times index minus 1, width times index with the current position, or width times index plus 1, and that gives us 0, 0, 5, let's say 1, 0, 5. Let's try, we can add it here. That's not working very well. It looks like, or does it? Yeah, it says, oh, sorry, you cannot see on the screen. Sorry. So I was like, oh, that's not working very well, because so we see jewelry is in white, furniture, oops. So you have like the active, and actually a cool thing which you see, when you're at this position, when you scroll horizontally, you don't see anything happen, which is like on the Android demo. But because here we use interpolate, you see the active section moving, which I think is really cool. Somehow you don't have that on the Android version, but on the Flutter demo. But I decided to keep it because I think it looks cool. But you see here so the value is not visible at the bottom, and it's because we need to extrapolate. Extrapolate clamp. Much better. Up. Swipe. Furniture. Perfect. But now we need to translate. So when we're at this position, the text is not centered anymore, and you see also the text goes above the cards, which is very nice. But we need to, when we're at this position, we need to align it to the left. So we're gonna need to add a translation. So I think the way we can do it here. So because the label is, so it needs to be perfectly centered. So we use text align center. And I think the way we align it to the left using animation, because we know exactly the width of the text, we're just gonna animate on the width of the container, because we know exactly to what's the minimum width we can go to, and the text is still readable to the full width of the screen. And that should give us the expected result. So let's try. So we have label width, and we are gonna interpolate on, sorry, I just lost my contact, sorry about that. Okay, I might need to, okay, quickly go get a new contact, but so I'm gonna pause this and get a new contact. All right, guys, I'm back, sorry about that. So we need to, interpolate on the label width. So we go from 0 to 8 minus medium, because starting from the medium header size, it's centered already. So from medium header height, and so the width here, it's going to be the minimum width, which is going to be the length of the title times the character size. So oops, dot title dot length times char width, which we have here. And to have it perfectly centered, we just use the full width of the screen, and we need to extrapolate, of course. I can just do it here, up. And so do I have some error here? Cannot 0 medium. Oh, typo here. Okay. Okay, so that, no. Oh, forgot to add it here. Up. Sorry. Label width. That's not good, because it's not the, I guess I'm getting tired because I wrote 8 instead of width. Okay, so perfectly to the left, we have some padding here, and then if I move like this, it's centered. So pretty cool. So now last step is to have like this little, if I go back to the headers, so we have the, and here, go back to the animation, we have the, so the card, the text, and then if you remember, there is a small line also we need to animate. So again, we're gonna put some iterate over the section, and we have a cursor component that we can use. I have it here. Very simple, just some white line basically with 50 height, 5 background color white. You see it here. So here it's just like follows basically, right, the card animation, but it needs to have its own animation. If you remember the Android demo, it had actually like a pretty complex behavior. And so I think the first thing we're gonna do here, so here it's following the translation of the card, but it needs to have its own translation. So we're gonna create its own style. That's good. We can copy some of it. So for now, I'm just gonna do translate y equals 0, translate x equals 0. So header height, which we calculate here, we can move it outside this function and pass it as a parameter here. Okay, and so we can calculate it here. Oh, in the constructor actually already, but okay, we have full header height. We can clean this up later. So we have it here. We need to pass it as parameter here and here, and maybe the first transformation we can add is one which is exactly like the one for the text. It's the opacity one, and I can just copy and paste opacity and add it to the style. So index ski. Let's have a look. So here they are all on, okay, so they're all on top of each other, so we don't see if opacity is working actually. Okay, so now let's do the Y translation. So we're gonna interpolate on Y. So input range goes from 0 to height minus, so it goes from left to centered. No, it goes from the top to the position. Yeah, so it goes from medium header height, output range goes to so at 0 we multiply the header height, which is an animated value, times the index, and when we're fully scrolled we go to 0, this one is, and key. So let's have a look. So you see the opacity seems to be working nicely, so that's good. We do need to add some extrapolate. yeah, perfect. So you see they go to this position now, like they're starting this position, they're all on top of each other. So now what we need to do is to add, so you don't see them anymore because they're all at the same position. So what we need to do is to add the translate X. And so if you remember, at this position, you only see one on the left. So you see the one in the middle, which is active. And then you see one on the left, one on the right. And then when we go to this position, they all appear on the screen. So that's the last translation we need to do. And we need also at this we need at this position the cursor to be on the left. So there is two two translations that we need to add. There is this one, which depends on the Y value. Oh, sorry, you don't see the screen. But so we need to go now from the left to the middle. So let's do it. Interpolate Y. So his input range goes from, yeah, this is good actually, up. We need also extrapolate and output range. So at 0 we go from we've divided by 2 to 0. Let's have a look. But we need to add, okay, yeah, so that's good. So we need to add, so here it cuts in the middle, right? And then, okay. So we need to add half of the cursor width plus the padding. Looks good. And now we need to, so this is gonna be, so okay, now we need at this position to have them spread out, and then to spread out again at this position. So we're gonna create another translation value. So let's call it, this one is translate x1, we create translate x2, which are also going to interpolate from y, and translate x equals add translate x1 plus translate x2. So input range, so here we have we have three different positions. So we have this one and small header height. Okay. Extrapolate clamp. Output range. So 0. At 0 we do nothing. So when we are at 8 minus medium size, we can translate by with, no, when, let me look. So minus width divided by 2 times index. Let's just try this one. It's called key. Okay, so here we have, like, you see it here, half. And then if we are at the last position, we need to make it much closer. So we can, let's say, divide it by 4. So now you see they get closer, but we need to remove maybe so actually we could if we do cursor width times index. So I guess if we do this, they should, oh, it's called key. They should just appear as one line. Let's have a look. Okay, so yeah, perfect. Position. And then they just appear as one line. So we can just add some padding to it. Okay, so now it looks good, and we can try to center it. So we need to remove, let's say, width divided by 4 plus the padding on each side. And so here, no, we just have it on the other side. Oh. Because I wrote divided by 2. So I think it looks extremely close to the Android demo. It's really the same actually. The only part that is missing, and I think what we're gonna do is we'll do a bonus episode to finish it. So to me right now in this current state, the last mile is, you see, is this. That on the vertical scrolling we don't have any snap points. So we have a snap points here, but we don't have a snap point vertically. And I think what we can do, you know, we have the tools, and we've seen this from also previous episode, we have the tools to build a drop-in scroll view component here for the, so it's this one, for the vertical scrolling, where we will be able to implement, so to have exactly the same behavior and implement, sorry, let me move back to the, and implement the snap points. And so we'll do this in a bonus episode. But I think it's a pretty cool demo, and you know, it looked, I think when we looked at the original Android app, it looked a little bit overwhelming, but I think if we really like break down the problem into small pieces, it's absolutely doable, and I think it's yeah, really cool demo. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your feedback, and I'm looking forward to talk to you guys soon. And in the meantime, happy coding and happy hacking.